YouTube. Tonight I'm working on a stereo. My sister has a 2008 Hyundai Accent. Her factory stereo has gone out on her, and so for Christmas I told her I'd replace her with I'd get her a nice single DIN Bluetooth stereo to replace her factory stereo, which was pretty simple. Anyway, it seems to be odd to me that when I start working on something, things come in phases. So I told my sister I'd work on her stereo, and then within this last week I've had two friends who've come to me about help with their cars, and the things that were wrong were actually their stereos, and both of those cars were factory stereos. Well, not factory stereos, aftermarket stereos, which were having the problems. My one friend, what had happened is she had a boyfriend help her wire it into her car, and they cut the plug off the harness of the car and found a wiring diagram online to match up speakers and stuff, but they ended up frying the dimming system to the gauges in her car. Anyway, the first thing I told her was like, that was the biggest mistake. You should have just paid the $5 to get the wiring kit. The second friend, her little brother, he wired in the stereo and just twisted wires together, used electrical tape, did the same thing, cut the harness directly out of the car. And now, granted, I have done many of stereos in my time, and I know for modern cars it is so much easier to just buy the proper wiring kit, rather than trying to cut the factory harness and wire it in that way. It's just a hassle, and it's not, in my eyes, not very professional. So this is what I did, is I went online. I found my sister this Sony stereo, Sony MEX N5 100BT. It has Bluetooth. It supports, has an auxiliary port, has a USB port on the front. I think that was like $89 on eBay, brand new. The next thing I bought, which was actually came in a kit essentially, was what is it called? I'm having a brain fart at the moment. It's the single DIN conversion bracketry, I guess. This was also off eBay. It came in a kit with the wiring. It's for Hyundais and Accents, Kia Rio, Kia Centro, and Sportage. The part number is obviously right there, HYU-K0510P. Wiring kit is HYU-11106. Now, I don't have her car with me at the moment, but I decided to at least get everything ready for when I do have her car. And I'll show you my processes of doing so. First of all, some of the tools I needed to prepare it to go into her car were some just wire strippers. I really like this style. And obviously wire crimpers. Personally, I like having two separate tools. I know the stripper has a crimper in it, but I hate having to deal with making crimps between the handles. I like an open-end tool, and so I can easily just, and it's not hard to just use this tool, switch to this tool, make my crimp. I use a small Phillips and a small flathead. Personally, when I do wiring, I'll explain. I like using these, let's see if I can show it right there, closed-end connectors. And that's my personal preference. I know a lot of people will say, oh, you should be soldering. I honestly could solder. I've got a bunch of soldering stuff, but just for a basic stereo, I don't see a need. And I use those closed-end connectors basically for a few reasons. Personally, I think the butt-end connectors, you've got two crimps, more likelihood of messing one up. Secondly, you can twist the wires together, and then have one crimp, and so you actually have continuity between the copper of the wires themselves, rather than with a butt end connector, one goes in and it has a, what would you call that, it's got a break in the continuity. So you got a wire coming in, goes to the metal section of the butt end connector, and a wire in the other side, which also connects to that metal section. So it's just one extra piece to have an issue in the future. But these closed-end connectors, you twist the wires together. They're not wire nuts. Never use wire nuts on automotive application. Those are for household applications. And so, just real quick, I'll turn this around. It's a very straightforward wiring situation. You never have to, this plug will go directly into a car. That's obviously plugged straight into the single DIN head unit. And then it's for the most part, just color coded. You just match up the color codes. Here's that's a remote wire. It doesn't need it for this application. Remote antenna. Her car is not equipped with a remote antenna. The blue wire coming off the stereo itself, basically same situation. It's a remote antenna or a remote amplifier of some sort. And there was one wire I did leave off, and this is coming from the car itself. This is the dimmer, which is not compatible with the single DIN head unit. Now, to talk a little bit about the mounting bracketry that came with the kit, a few things. I chose to use the molding that came with the bracketry. I felt it filled in the space a lot better than the molding that came with the head unit itself. This head unit, or this assembly, came in, I believe, 4 pieces. 1 piece here in the front with the bottom tray, 2 side pieces, so 3 pieces. Now, the head unit itself came with, let me see if I can grab them, these screws here, and they're actually too short. There's a gap right here, let's see, right in there. They were too short to reach from the outside of this plastic all the way to the head unit, and so I just went in my scrap screw bin and I pulled these out and used those. They reach much better. Now, in the instructions, which are actually decent instructions for the mount dash kit, it does explain, you know, you use the sleeve and then you use the tabs on the sleeve, and I did that. I bent up some tabs to kind of secure it, but it wasn't secure enough, so I still chose to use the side mounting screws. And then, now this has dash disassembly for each car. It's got the Hyundai Accent, the Kia Rio, Sportage and things. And then over here on the next page, sorry, my phone is moving a lot and it seems to zoom in or closer than it needs to be. And then it also tells you for which tabs you need to break off for each car in order to mount it in each car. I'll be breaking 3 tabs off on that Hyundai Accent. It also comes with some spacers to go between the plastic and the head unit itself. Now, those spacers were long. In fact, I've got half of it in there, and the other half theoretically would have been up to here. But you can see right in there, that's where the sleeve is of the head unit. And if I were to use this spacer all the way up to there, it would flare this out, and I'm assuming that's going to cause me problems in the future. So all I did was take some cutters and I just nipped that off, and so my spacer fits into those 2 holes and comes back and just goes straight into there. And when I mount it in the car, I'm going to run her microphone for her. That's what this coiled wire is. Plug it in. This is the antenna. She doesn't have any amplifiers or speakers or anything of that nature, or high output speakers, and so I'm not going to worry about the other ports here on the back of the head unit. So I guess moral of the story is that spend the $5, get the proper installation tools. When that, like the wiring kit, it's definitely worth it. I can't remember how much I paid for the molding kit. I think it was probably $35 or $50. No, maybe $35 total with the molding and the wiring, but it was definitely worth it in the long run. All I did was sit down, make all my connectors. Now here's those closed end connectors, just in action right here on the wiring harness. With just one crimp, put both wires in, make your crimp, and you still have your full length. It just real easy. You just plug it straight in the car and you're good to go. I'll stop jabbering now. I hope this has helped someone in the future. I probably won't have a video of me installing this in my sister's car specifically because I don't know when it'll happen, and I'll probably post this video before then. So, have a great day, YouTube.